Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about a topic that may be controversial, but it really shouldn't be because there are plenty of world record holding deadlifters who actually do this. And that's this idea that we should probably spend time training both sumo and conventional. Now, a lot of people hear that and they'll say silly stuff, and you'll hear this dogmatic nonsense from powerlifting like, well, sumo is cheating, blah, 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 all this. I'm stronger on conventional than sumo, so I don't really see how sumo is cheating. It's usually you'll see people who have extremely long arms or really short guys who pull more on sumo. Okay, the majority of people, if you have an average structure, if you're an average height guy, or especially if you're a taller guy, you probably won't pull more on sumo. Shorter women, shorter guys, or men with extremely long arms get a little bit more out of sumo. Particularly men with really long arms get sometimes a little bit more. And I have long arms, but I'm not in that category. I don't have the extremely long arms. Think Kaler Woolham. So it's not cheating, and it's this silly dogmatic nonsense that people come up with. No, it's a different type of deadlift that works muscles in a different ratio. And if you want to be injury free and have well-rounded development, it's a good idea to rotate through exercises. Okay? I mean, we can talk about something like people needing to do different grip widths on things, and that sinks in, right? How many people out there will say, oh yeah, doing wider grip benching and closed grip benching, training both is a really good idea from a hypertrophy perspective. It's a really good idea from a strength perspective, right? That's not a controversial topic, is it? Almost no one disagrees with that. Almost no lifter or coach ever says, no, it's useless and a waste of time to train both a wide and a closed grip bench. In fact, you won't see bodybuilders arguing against that either. How many of them do both? Changes the ratio of pec versus tricep. Now, you'll get a few idiots out there who will say stuff like, oh, well, the closed grip bench is a tricep exercise, not a pec, and a bench is a pec, not a tricep. But you set those aside, most people realize both are primary movers. There's benefits to using both, and in fact, we can help avoid overuse injuries by utilizing both in our training. Okay. Even though you might only use one in comp, every person out there at a powerlifting meet has one specific grip that they prefer to do for meet. Okay? It's the one they're the strongest at. Might I suggest that you treat the deadlift the same way? Train the different stances and things, and then compete with the one you're strongest at. And the difference is that the ratios are different here. Okay? The ratios are different. Conventional deadlift uses more back. Okay, uses more back, potentially a little more hamstring, but it is harder on your back because we start with a more bent over position. Look at the torso angles involved, right? We're bent over a lot more, puts more stress on the lumbar. Okay. The sumo deadlift uses less back. Okay, there's less shear stress on the back because our angles are different. We're pulling from a more upright position. Now, some of us can't do it as well. Like for me, I still don't have the best leverages and mobility to pull beautiful sumo. I'm not built for sumo. Okay? Still train it. In this case, if you guys notice, I'm not doing a really exaggerated wide sumo there. I'm doing this just to build myself up and build weak links. Okay. And again, some people say, oh, your sumo technique's horrible. I'm aware of that. It's the way I'm built. I have certain muscles that need to be built up better to get that sumo on point. But when I'm using it just as a training tool and have to just brute strength my way through it in spite of that, get a lot of stimulus. But it is easier on your back. There's less shear stress on the low back, less total back involvement. But if we get more quad, we get a lot more hip involvement. If we're getting more hip, a lot of times hip extensors, sometimes we're getting more glute. Okay. Now people say, but it's harder on your hips. Well, let's come over to that point of overuse. Okay. Let's come to that point of overuse. Yes, if you pull tons and tons and tons of sumo and nothing else all the time, you may get overuse injuries in your hips. Okay? It does put more stress on that joint. Just like the conventional deadlift puts more stress on your low back, there's more shear on the lumbar. Now I want people to stop and think about this for a minute. They work fairly similar muscle groups in slightly different ratios, but the joints that get fatigued and hit the hardest are completely different joints in the body. Might be a point where hopefully a light bulb just turned on for some people. What limits the amount of sumo pulling we can oftentimes do in a training week or a training month? Our hips. Our hips. What determines how much conventional deadlifting and variations of it we can get away with? Usually our low back fatigue. Might I suggest that if you train both, you can do more total pulling volume without getting as beat up? Because the areas you feel beat up in are completely different. In other words, if you were to train both of these every month, or possibly even every week, maybe on different days, you can do more pulling. Not that we do large amounts of it. It's very, very hard to do high volumes on either one of these exercises. They're best left to lower reps. We can do multiple sets of low reps. You could probably, from a recovery end, get away with almost twice as much pulling every week if you were to mix them. Okay. They still work similar muscles. It's just that the sumo uses more adductor, abductor, quad. Okay. Conventional is going to use more back, more total back. I'm talking about lumbar, everything. If you combine them together, we get a lot more well-rounded development, don't we? You start throwing in stuff like squats and good mornings. We can get a lot done. Maybe a little bit of extra hamstring work or low back work of some type. Okay. This gives us a lot of variation. And this is before we get into variations of the sumo and the conventional, where we start changing ranges of motion up or down. It's just the basic lifts. Okay? But it allows us to have better development and to get less beat up if we change back and forth between the two. Right? Why wouldn't you do that? There's a lot of benefits to that. And again, there's a lot of really, really, really strong deadlifters who do both. They just happen to, in competition, use the version they're strongest at. Right? Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.